wa barakatuh. Inshallah, as in the previous nights, we're going to test the children, or should I say the young men, beautiful young men here, very smart guys, and inshallah someone will be able to help the young ladies on the other side. Last night, during the lecture, the verse from Surah Al-Hujurat says that Allah says the Muslims are all what? Brothers, mashallah. So what?
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
The Prophet said that none of you will have faith until you want what? Yes. Please? Almost. Anyone else? Almost. Almost. The question is, yesterday during the lecture, I said, the Prophet said that none of you have faith until you, what? Yes. The adults are ready to take the candy. Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam said about our Sunni brothers, I gave many examples that he said things that we should do for our Sunni brothers. Can anyone name one?
Help them, not don't betray them, make sure that they have people like you said, treat them like you them.
MashaAllah. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Our Prophet referred to the Islamic Ummah as one what? You already have it. Body, mashallah. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Back to the question that you guys didn't answer yet. The Prophet said for us to say not that we have faith until we want what? Close. Not close. Inshallah, can the adults help the kids? The Prophet said, say ye not that you're believers until you,
Like for your brother what you like for yourself.
until you want for your brother that in which you want for yourself. Brothers and sisters, these are very, very important things, especially for you young people to know. Because in this world, the closest thing that you have in life will be your Muslim brothers. If something was to happen to you, inshallah, it will be your Muslim brothers that will come to your rescue, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعليمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشافي نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين. Inshallah, we continue with our discussion of Surah Al-Hujurat. And again, this is the surah that lets us know what our moral code of conduct should be.
Pay attention.
Tonight, inshallah, we'll be discussing verse number 11. And with verse number 11, It's a very beautiful verse. It reads, "O you who have true faith, O those of you who truly believe, do not let men make fun of other men. Perhaps they may be better than the group of men that they're making fun of. Also, let not women make fun of other women, as it may be that they are better than the group of women that they're making fun of. And do not find fault with your own people, nor call one another by nicknames. Evil is a bad name after faith, and whoever does not turn, these it is who are the unjust." How many of you like for people to call you something or make fun of you? Anybody? Anybody likes to be the butt of a joke? Anyone wants to be called a bad name? No. Sometimes in life, the simplest things, we know that they're there, but we have to hear it. Because how many people do we know, religious or otherwise, take the time out to make fun of other people? The reason why this verse was revealed, the reason why it was revealed was because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had companions like Amr, Bilal, Suhail, Salman, and Habib, who used to be ridiculed by the people of Bani Tamim. Why were they ridiculed? Because these people were poor. They didn't have a whole lot of money. In fact, these people gathered together and they lived on one side of the town, and the only reason why they were able to survive was because they would help each other to get food, to get money, so that they'll be able to make it from day to day. Not only was this verse revealed because of those companions being ridiculed, but we find that Aisha and Hafsa, they used to try to make fun of Salima, one of the wives of the Prophet, and they said that she had very little ornaments, or she had very little jewelry. And once Aisha and Hafsa, they laughed at Safiya in contempt because they said that she was the daughter of a Jew. Now, if someone ever asks you if Muslims do not like Jews, here it is that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he married a woman who was a Jewish woman. Alhamdulillah, she accepted Islam afterwards, but in order for this to happen, it has to mean that we Muslims are not automatic enemies of people. We become enemies if someone does something to us. But when Aisha and Hafsa tried to make fun of Safiya, our Prophet told her to say to them, to say that my father was Harun, my uncle was Musa, and my husband is Rasulullah. What's better than that? They thought that they could make fun of her for being a Jew, but Rasulullah said through her lineage that her father is Nabi Harun, that her uncle is Nabi Musa, and that her husband is none other than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi himself. This goes back and it proves what the verse said. Do not let some of your women make fun of others because they may be better than the women that they're trying to make fun of. At the end of the story, we find that the people that was trying to dishonor this lady ended up being dishonored because her lineage was better than theirs. This story lets us go back to what it is that we talked about last night. We talked about the believers being but one single brotherhood, and that all of us are brothers of one another. And that if something goes on between us, we need to try to reconcile or make things good so that we will not continue to be bad against one another. We find that when it comes to Muslims, this verse says that the Muslims have 3 rights above each other. And inshallah, it's very important that you know these 3 rights. Number 1, Muslims should always show respect to the character and reputation of a Muslim. Number two, that Muslims are prohibited. You cannot look at faults in your Muslim brothers. And number three, you are prohibited to calling people by nicknames that are offensive. The first tenet that we looked at is that a person's character, as far as a Muslim is concerned, should always be protected in the view of another Muslims. That means that Muslims cannot make fun of one another because they may hurt the feelings of someone. If you have a friend in school, and you and your friend, you're good friends. But if one of his friends come by, and he stops being your friend and be the next person's friend, and starts saying bad things about you, how do you feel? You feel absolutely bad. And the reason why you feel bad is because this person is supposed to be your friend. The Muslims are not just friends, but we're brothers of one another. So that means that we should never side with anyone else to break down the character of someone else. People try to judge people not based on the character that they have inside, but they try to base them on what they look like physically. Are they big? Are they small? Are they fat? Are they skinny? Are they pretty? Are they handsome? Or are they not attractive? Does this person wear pretty clothes? Does this person wear ratty clothes? Based on this, people say a person is good or a person is bad. But these are all outward things that have no bearing on what this person is on the inside. They don't speak to the character of a person. But we always look for the superficial things to see what they're all about. But if we're Muslims, the things that we look for to see if a person is a good person is we see, are they performing good deeds? Are they showing mercy and compassion? Are they being generous? Are they modest and not braggadocious? Are they pleasant? Do they have piety? Do they refrain from sins? And do they protect the character of the people who they're around? As Muslims, this is very important that we do all of these things. Because when we do this, we'll be able to find out who are the good people and who are the bad people. How many times have you seen someone who's wearing a nice pair of pants, a nice shirt, but they're very mean? How many times have you seen people who other people say, this girl is a good-looking girl, or this boy is a good-looking boy, and they are mean people? It's not that they're attractive that makes them good people, it's how they act and treat other people that makes them good or bad. How many times do we see the outward appearance of someone and it does not mirror the inside appearance? According to this, we have to ask ourselves a question. Why is it that people make fun of other people? Why are they always trying to bring people down? Psychologists say that the reason why one group of people will make fun of another group of people is because they have a defect within themselves. And by making fun of someone else, they're trying to cover up the bad thing that's going on with them. And because they're trying to cover it up, they continue to resort to doing bad things so that other people will start looking at other folks instead of saying, you know what, maybe there's something wrong with him. They're scared on the inside. So when a person starts making fun of you, just always think in your mind, there's something wrong with this individual. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created us as men, He had given us the ability to be better than the angels, and we could be worse than the animals. How? You see, the angels, they have no free will. They do not make decisions for themselves. The only thing that an angel can do is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them to do. They're righteous because of it, but we are better than the angels because Allah gives us the opportunity to decide whether we want to do what is right or to do what is wrong. We are worse than the animals because when the animals go out to destroy something, they don't destroy just for the fun of something. If an animal goes after another weak animal, it's because it's hungry or it's trying to protect itself. Human beings attack one another because they want to take power. And as Muslims, we have to make sure that we are not trying to destroy people based on our want of power. Because this feeds the animalistic side of ourselves, and the more animalistic we become, the less spiritual and righteous we will ever be. We find that our physical bodies is not an eternal body. So the things that we look at that makes us think that we're good, the things that we're very proud of, the things that we look at other people and say they're good people because they have a full head of hair, because they don't have any gray in their hair. They're not fat people, they're not skinny people. This body, when we die, it means nothing. The only thing that goes with us is our soul. So if we make our souls good, then we will be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah, inshallah. When it comes down to how it is that we look at Muslims, you should never look down on a Muslim because, according to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, do not consider any of the Muslims as being insignificant, since in the eyes of Allah, they have a high rank. No matter what it is that we think of a person, if they say that they are a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they have a high rank with Allah. Then it says, then the Prophet says, be careful of what you say about your Muslim brothers and sisters, because you may single out yourself as one who is not a true believer in Allah. How do you tell if a person is not a true believer in Allah? Because this person spends all of their time trying to find the faults and speak bad about their Muslim brothers and sisters. Our Prophet also lets us know that you should only speak the most excellent things of your brothers and sisters. If you know that there's something bad about your brother and someone asks you about it, you don't say what's bad about your brother. You say what's good about your brother. Because you're supposed to cover your brother. In Dua Kamel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He covers our sins. And that if He did not cover those sins, if people had known what those sins were, no one would want to associate with us. As your Muslim brother, it is your duty, it is your ability to cover the fault of your brother, so that people would not see it, and if you can help him, go and help him to remove this fault so that it will no longer be there. Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam said, if you knew the position of the believer in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would never do anything to disappoint the believer. So how is it that we ensure that we treat all of our brothers right? We do what Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam said. He says, treat your companions and your friends with kindness and never make faces or show contempt amongst them. It is incumbent on each of us as Muslims to always not look for the faults in our Muslim brothers. How many people do you know, if you're watching something, if you're doing something, if you're eating something, there's a big nice plate of food here, and you say, man, the food is good. And the next person says, well, it needs salt. Man, the brother has a nice suit on. Yeah, but you know, he's wearing the wrong tie. The brother has a nice suit on. Yeah, but he has the wrong shoes on. Why are these people actually looking for the faults of their brothers, when it is that they should be the ones who look for what is good in their brothers? Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam says that every person of intelligence should always look at their own weaknesses first, so that when they look at their own weaknesses and they realize what their weaknesses are, this knowledge of their weaknesses will help stop them from looking at the weaknesses of others. Because in many cases we think that we're perfect when we're not. But in order for us to feel like we're perfect, we look at those other people to see that they're not perfect so that we will feel better about ourselves. We need to take care of our own souls and not make fun of other people. We find that amongst the Muslims, one of the things that we do is we sometimes go out and we make nicknames up for our people. You know, if a person is short, you call him something bad. You're a short little stumpy guy. Who likes that? If a person is skinny, you're skinny as a pole. If a person is fat, you're fat as a house. And what we do is we look at that and sometimes we laugh at it. We say, oh, this is funny. Oh my God. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. But we say that it's funny because we want other people to like us. But what are we doing to this individual while we're making fun of them? We're bringing them down. We're making them feel bad about themselves. We're making them look at themselves as if they are inadequate. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us all of our features. Which one of you decided who your parents were going to be consciously before you were born? Which one of you decided which country you were going to live in before you were born? Which one of you decided that you were going to be tall or short before you were born? Which one of you decided that you were going to have a full head of hair or your hair was going to start receding? None of us. So when we make fun of someone, it's not that person that we're actually making fun of, we're actually making fun of the one who created them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us perfectly. There's nothing wrong with any one of us. Each and everything that happens to us, it happens for a reason. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in this way, it was to make us responsible for one another so that if we see what we think is a defect in this person, we're supposed to check that and see the inside of this individual and not the outside. Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam says that we are forbidden to deal with people who try to go out and divulge the inner secrets of others, or who go out and try to talk bad about other people. How many times, especially with you young kids, how many times have you seen when there's one person who likes to make fun of someone, that he always have a crew with him? He has to have a crew. He has to have someone egging him on, because he can't stand by himself. When this person is all alone, he is your best friend. But when his crew comes around, now he looks to do what? To criticize you, to make you feel like you did something wrong. Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam said, let the best person in your estimation be the one who is the leader of you. Why? Because the best person is going to make sure when somebody is saying something wrong about somebody else, this person is going to step in and say, you know what? You cannot speak badly about this individual. Why are we talking about this? It's because of the verse we read last night. If we're brothers of one another, the fastest way for you and I to no longer be brothers is for me to speak ill of you, for me to look for your faults, and for me to make you look very bad in the eyes of other people. How many communities have been destroyed because of people speaking badly about one another? How many of your friendships as young people have been destroyed because of somebody speaking bad about other people? How many fights have you seen in school because somebody is saying something bad about somebody else? This is not a light issue. This is a heavyweight issue, and once we get to a point to where we understand that we shouldn't take this as something trivial, then we can begin to be the best of all of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. And this verse, it talks about not choosing someone and saying bad things about them as far as a bad name, and that we should not give people bad nicknames. You know, during the time of Rasulullah, there were people who were called Abdul Shaitan, the servant of Shaitan. This is not a good name. So our Prophet told us that we should have the best of names, and that we name our children the best of names, and that we don't give them a name that's going to bring them shame, nor should we give each other nicknames that will bring us shame. If when you were younger, someone called you Pee-wee, that's a nickname that they have here. When you were younger, they called you Pee-wee. When you become older, you can no longer call this person Pee-wee, because Pee-wee may not be a nice name for them. When you were younger, you may have taken the name Chub Rock, and you liked it. It was good, it was okay. But when you become older, you don't like this name anymore. You can no longer call this person by that name. This is the responsibility that we have as Muslims. And I'm breaking this thing down because you are the ones who are going to set the table for the rest of everyone else. When you show people how to behave, when you show people the akhlaq of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt, then people begin to be attracted to Islam. When you stand up for the person who's being taunted, who's being teased, who's being bullied, then the people say, why did you help me? You can say, because I am a Muslim. And when you say, I am a Muslim, you say, I stopped them from beating on you. I stopped them from saying bad things about you, because Islam is the religion of peace. You can make a change and you can make a difference in the way that people look at everyone else. But in the beginning of this talk, I said that there were people during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who tried to ridicule and make fun of other people. And in many cases, these people would lie about people in order to try to make other people look bad. On a night like tonight, we find that one of the greatest human beings ever to walk the face of this earth, his son, people tried to ridicule him because they gave bad information about who this individual was and how it was and what state it was he was in when he died. On a night like tonight, we celebrate and we commemorate and we remember the life of Abu Talib, the father of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. You see, when Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was with some of the companions during the time of Muawiyah, there was a dirty rumor that was being spread. And that rumor was that Abu Talib, the father of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, that he died as a non-believer. What a horrible thing to say. But they said it to try to bring down the status of Imam Ali. But when we look at the life of Abu Talib, we find that this man, above many other men, did so much for Islam in a time when others would not do anything for Islam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored him with quite a few things. The first thing that Abu Talib was honored with was the fact that he was the one who raised Rasulullah after his grandfather died. The Prophet was raised in his household. The next thing that Abu Talib was blessed with from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the fact that Allah allowed his son, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, to be born in the Kaaba. How many people were born in the Kaaba? One. And who's that one? Imam Ali. This was in honor of Abu Talib and his wife, Fatima bint Asad, because they showed compassion towards the Prophet. They gave to him when he was an orphan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given them a Masum son who was born in the Kaaba. What other person can say that they did that? When it was time for the Prophet to get married, who was it that who did the marriage ceremony for Rasulullah? Abu Talib. When the people were trying to kill Rasulullah and they didn't feel good about Rasulullah, who was the person who protected Rasulullah? It was Abu Talib. When the Muslims had to leave Mecca and they had nowhere to go, they went to the Sham of who? Abu Talib. Abu Talib gave all that he had so that you and I would have this message today because he protected the Prophet. This is why when we understand the history of Islam, we can always go back and we can correct it, and we can say to those people who are outside, do not say that in which you have no knowledge of. Because when it comes down to Abu Talib, if we look at his sons, if we look at Jafar, he was a great Muslim man. If we look at his son, Aqil, his son, Muslim bin Aqil, was the first martyr before Karbala. He went into Kufa, and while he was trying to go back and give this message to Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, they killed him. So young people, do not make fun of other people. Do not try to bring somebody else down because of bad information. And understand that your Muslim brother who is sitting next to you is in fact your brother and not your friend. We close out with the following dua, inshallah. Oh Allah, make us of those who understand the beautiful institution that you've given us called brotherhood in Islam. Help us to understand that we cannot make ourselves any better by bringing down anyone else or looking for the faults of others, that we only bring down our own souls. Oh Allah, purify those souls of ours. Make us upright individuals and make us obedient to you so that we could be of the soldiers of Imam Sahib Asri wa Zaman. We pray all of this bihaqi Muhammadin wa alihi al-Atar. We close out this part of the majlis with the Surah Al-Fatiha, but before that, the loudest of salawats.